My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead. And it puts life into perspective of how short life is. And I think we're at like over 200,000 for merch sales. Don't quote me on that because I think it just keeps like bumping up like crazy. But
behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before my feet, and know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth.
I feel like the Lord is saying that somehow they were funneling money through Turning Point USA, Israel and the Mossad, and it has to do with child sex trafficking. And I don't think that Charlie was aware of it, but maybe Erika funneling money through the system. And you're showing me Netanyahu. Turning Point USA. What is at Charlie's feet? Even now, you're telling me portions of wealth. It's the turning point indeed. Everything hidden will be exposed. And I saw like a treasure chest filled with gold, and I hear money bags, and I hear Netanyahu. I wonder if Erika Kirk took up that offer that Netanyahu gave Charlie, but he declined. And I just heard barbaric acts. It is a network and flooding systems and the funneling of money. You're bringing me back to that word where you put in my spirit that Israel might have something to do with sex trafficking and funneling money. And the Mossad and Jeffrey Epstein. What does it all go back to? I see that flag of Israel. I hear handouts. What are they not telling you behind the scenes? I see the Mossad and I hear Judas's. And you're telling me a leak will come out. A leak of new information about these things. I see Erika's face. He's showing me Charlie getting like the wound to his neck. Like a big hole in his neck. Seriato Suroma, bleeding out. What? What? Why do I hear not his blood? What does that mean? Not his blood. Not his blood and contamination. Okay, I hear moments in time and flickers, and I am showing you who I am. And truths must be told, and you're telling me whose blood is it? What? Sheti Hatusu. I see Nephilim blood and witchcraft. Seti. I see open doors. You showing me Erika Kirk. I hear the Mossad. I see Jeffrey Epstein and I see the children. Now I hear Turning Point USA and the floor and the ceiling's about to break in. What does that mean? I'm exposing all faulty foundations and it will be broken up. The Mossad.
I do believe when we look at Turning Point and we look at all of this, I do see Mossad.
So now let's talk about the connection with Mossad. Now we've already covered, there's already been other whistleblowers that have come out and told us, there's two already that we've covered on this show, two whistleblowers from inside TPUSA that said that there was definitely Mossad infiltration into TPUSA and they were running things. So now here's a third one. So now here's your whistleblower, Matthew, and here's what he says about it.
There was a conversation that I had with Liz Harris, who used to be part of the Arizona House of Representatives.
Yeah, we know Liz.
Yep. I had a conversation with her. I have it recorded too, because in Arizona you can record conversations. She literally said to me, Turning Point's Mossad. Tyler Boyer is Mossad. They're all neocons.
Liz Harris told you this?
Liz Harris told me this. I have the recording.
She told you Tyler Boyer was Mossad?
Yep. Yep. And neocons. They're the neocons, and they're connected to Mossad. I have it all on recording. So that's when and these are the people that tried to warn me about Turning Point. Liz tried to warn me. My friend Luke tried to warn me. A lot of people tried to warn me, but I wanted to see for myself. I'm that kind of person, because I am here for the truth, and I wanted to see for myself. And when Charlie died, that was it for me. It was time to come out. It was time to come clean and let everybody know what I witnessed, participated in. And I do apologize to the American people. I really do.
So here is that phone call that he's talking about with Liz Smith, who, by the way, was a former representative in the House in Arizona. So
Yeah, committee woman.
Let's and a Republican. Let's listen to what she has had to say on this phone call.
The other very delicate thing we have going on is all this stuff with Israel. Now, Thaler is Jewish. Breger is Jewish. Like, when I say Jewish, I mean, like, not, they're very Jewish, meaning very, Bev Goldstein, like, there's so many names I can throw out that I do believe when we look at Turning Point and we look at all of this, I do see Mossad. I see there again. There's so many other things where I'm connecting dots. I think Alex Jones is controlled by them. Charlie Kirk's controlled by them. Steve Bannon. I can't believe nobody's killed me. I really can't. I have no idea why.
Because God is protecting right now. There's a lot of people that are surprised are not dead right now, but nobody gets to do anything unless God gives it permission.
And I'm with you, Liz. I mean, I've already had people show up to my door from what I've exposed, but I'm still alive. We're meant to be alive. So
when she says that the Mossad was actually controlling Charlie Kirk, I think there might have been a time when he didn't realize he had handlers, just like Candace Owens has revealed that she found out Charlie had handlers, and then she found out, she goes, I had handlers. I didn't even know it. And so I think that's what happened, that Charlie, his organization was infiltrated by the Mossad. He didn't know it.
Anybody who has a big platform has people who are trying to insert themselves into their direct orbit to do that.
Right.
We saw this. A lot of people made this excuse for Donald Trump in 2020. Does everybody remember this or no? During COVID-19, it was the scarf lady, Deborah Birx, and that rat-faced demon, Tony Fauci, and everybody was saying, well, it's not Trump's fault. Now, of course, there are people who have the real TDS, who are just people who are just obsessed with this guy, and they'll never leave his side, and they will support him right off the cliff that he's dragging our country off of. But, a lot of people said, well, it was the people that were around him. It was the Rochelle Walensky's, and it was, like all these other people that were advising the president, and he was kind of cut off from the outside world. Well, to a certain extent, that's true. And I could just take my own personal experience. I had a handler. I had multiple people that were inside of my organization in one way or another or attached to it who were trying to handle me. They were trying to handle me with money. There were millions of dollars on the line when I started talking about this. The same thing that Charlie Kirk started talking about at the end of his life. And I started to look at this overrepresentation, and I had concerns about the power structure in our bureaucracy. And I said, I just want to be run by Americans, and I don't understand what this is all about. And so I started getting smeared by the New York Times, and the Rolling Stone called me America's conspiracy kingpin. And the USA Today said, Stu Peters, the guy that radicalized Candace Owens. And they were calling me antiseptic and all these other things. And I'm thinking to myself, where is this coming from? I mean, I just did an interview with the survivors of the USS Liberty at their reunion event. Like, I just sat down and talked to them. I knew nothing about this, but it was that vitriolic kind of visceral response that told me oh, well, I'm on to something. Well, at this time, coming off the heels of COVID, I had a huge platform. I was all over YouTube. I'd been kicked off of there for COVID disinformation. Then I was allowed back on. But I had a huge following. The largest in history organically built Rumble channel is the Stu Peters Network. And all of this money was around. People wanted to be attached until I started talking about or questioning this issue. And then it was like I started getting text messages from people that worked for me that were handling some of these sponsor relationships. And they were acting as the conduit or the liaison. And they were saying to me, well, hey, we've got a sponsorship issue here that we need to discuss. And I'm like, well, what's that? Well, it's relating to the content on your show. And my response was, the content of my show has nothing to do with the advertisers. If they're happy with the audience that we're putting them in front of and happy with their return on their investment, that's as far as the conversation goes. I do not want to talk to these people about this. And then it kind of started to be a nagging thing. And I'm like, okay, so I had a meeting with Lauren Witzke, who at the time was working for me. And I said, what's this all about? What is this? And so we had a conversation. It turns out this is what the issue was. And I said, well, what exactly are they asking me to do? And when it came down to, hey, we want you to change your language. We want you to soften the message. We want you to not say these things. It was a no-go place for me. I was not having that. And when I found out why and who these people were and what was going on, I walked away from millions of dollars a year and lost my YouTube channel, and I lost my Spotify and my Apple Podcasts. We're back on now, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But, these people were absolutely trying to do that. And it wasn't just the overt leverage of money, which was easily detectable, but it was also the people. And I'm not saying this of Lauren Witzke, I'm not making allegations here, but I'm just saying there were people that were around me inside of the organization that we needed as labor savers because I was going all over the place. But I only hire people who I know or who someone who I know personally knows. And we don't have a huge organization. We have a handful of a dozen people that work with us. That was it. But I found out that some of these people were doing relationships, having relationships with other people who were then taking their words and trying to come at me with them as if they were their own and trying to influence the things that I was doing or the places that I was going, or moreover, the people that I was associating myself with. And so I just had to get rid of all that. And now I have, 4 people that work here. And so, I'm never letting I don't want to grow any bigger, but I do, but you understand what I'm saying as far as all these people. But there is a door that opens, and I can understand how people get insulated. It happens. And when you have Charlie Kirk, who is, in and out of meetings with the president, and he's in front of tens of thousands of people at a time, and he's running the organization that's taking credit for getting Trump elected, and everybody knows who you are, and you're running this multi-hundred million dollar organization, you could be insulated. You're just too busy. Your phone's ringing all the time. I've got 2 of them because, everybody has this one and only a few people have this one. You have this one. But, I don't want it ringing off the hook. So I've insulated myself to a certain extent, but it just happens when you're busy and people take advantage of that. I believe that Charlie Kirk was living a real life version of the Truman Show. I really do. I think that he kind of woke up to this all at once. And I would bet that it was at Bill Ackman's mansion in the Hamptons.
That's right. I agree with you on that.
I hear money funneling under the scenes and undercover. And I see the word inquiries. I hear Blake Neff and I hear handouts. And then I hear greed. They're funneling money behind the scenes. Then I hear a cutout and I see like a cutout of a paper. Oh, wow. Okay, you said paper trails. They're leaving behind them. I see notes. I see Candace with the sticky pad again. Everything hidden will be exposed. I see child sex trafficking, funneling money through whales. Turning Point USA. When you said whales, it could have been 2 things, like whales, but also like whales, like people who have a lot of money. And I heard, what are they gaining? And I heard profit.
I have been doing a series of videos on financial irregularities at Turning Point. People with Turning Point have now responded to my videos. We're going to go through their comments, and I'm going to show you some shocking new information. This was listed as one of the top independent contractors for Turning Point with payments of $1.5 million. I tracked down the address for 110 LLC to the parking lot of a strip mall. This address is also listed in the financial disclosure statement of Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman. I have seen everyone's comments, and the internet has spoken that the most likely explanation is that the money is being sent to a UPS store mailbox in that strip mall. So I think it is fair that we make that assumption that it is not being sent to the parking lot, but the mailbox in the UPS store. Turning Point has not confirmed this. I don't know why, because that's such an easy thing for them to say, but they remain silent. For some reason, they're doing everything to avoid talking about this UPS store mailbox. What I find extremely disturbing is that since these questions have been raised, not a single person from the accounting department at Turning Point has made any statements. The chief financial officer is a politician, Justin Olson. He's an Arizona state representative. Why has the CFO said nothing? Not a single person from the accounting department has said anything. We have heard from Andrew Colvette. We've heard from Blake Neff. We've heard from Tyler Boyer. We have heard from all these marketing people, but no one from the accounting department. I'm beginning to wonder if the accountants are silent because they know that anything they say can be used against them in a court of law. Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman on X.com has now made 7 posts confirming that he uses the UPS store mailbox for 110 LLC. I will show you just one example. He says, "You're a clown. 110 is a decade-old marketing company with many clients. The address I use for mail and public disclosures is a UPS store private mailbox at that address. Information the losers who created their video hid from you. Take off the tinfoil hat." First of all, it is not a decade-old company, which I will prove in a minute. That is a massive lie. It is very strange that he would lie about that. It's like he doesn't want people to know how his company was formed. The second thing that is strange is that in all of his 7 posts, he never mentions Turning Point. That's the whole point. The IRS forms tell us that Turning Point sent $1.5 million, and the only evidence this company even exists is a UPS store mailbox. Why is everyone going out of their way to avoid talking about this $1.5 million?
We are back here in the parking lot, and Jake Hoffman is concerned that I am hiding information from you. So let's talk about the UPS mailbox. Jake Hoffman wants us all to talk about the UPS mailbox. So I'm going to show it to you.
One of the reasons I've been so hesitant to make this connection is because of the massive implications. I understand that small businesses use UPS store mailboxes all the time, but this is different. This is not your mom and pop shop. This is not your typical small business. This is an Arizona state senator. He has a UPS store mailbox where people are dropping off millions of dollars. This is the mailbox. He is operating his multi-million-dollar business out of this UPS store mailbox. There's no location. There's no evidence for this business other than this mailbox. I do have to correct a mistake I made in my previous videos. I made the statement that there was no website for 110 LLC. I have discovered that is not correct. There is a website. It's just very hard to find. It is at 110.io. And I think it is very revealing. On the website, you can see a sample marketing example with Turning Point action listed on the ad. I think it is very suspicious that he is advertising that if you pay him money, you are also going to get the support of Turning Point action.
I hear right of acts or something like that, right of acts. And this must take place soon as the judicial system. I see the Supreme Court and Amy Barrett, I think is her name. Why are you showing me Candace Owens and warnings have been given? Judicial systems will be passed for my glory. I'm giving you a breakdown on what's up next, and you're telling me the courts and upheavals, systems falling, crashing, the cabal. You're telling me who's giving Amy Barrett, I think that's her name, offers behind the scenes, and I see the judges. You're telling me the courts, the Supreme Court. Who's behind the money banks? And then I see the world system, central banking, is that central banking? Seria to central world system. You're saying the cabal and kabbalist. And you're showing me like Hasidic Jews for some reason. A Kabbalist nation indeed, America has become. I am the high tower, and you shall have no other God. And I see Bell systems. Oh, Kabbalah. Bell is in the word Kabbalah. Banking and world systems crashing. You're showing me Jeffrey Epstein, the Mossad, and Bitcoin. And what's flowing even now. And I hear the Watergates and admission. That's a pun on words, I believe.
You should go check this website out. There's not a lot on it. It is literally one page. What is even crazier is that if you look the website up using the Wayback Machine, you will see that the website has not changed at all since 2021. I will repeat, this marketing company has not made a single change to its website since 2021. Additionally, the reason the website is so hard to find is that it is not indexed by Google. If you search on Google site:110.io, you will receive 0 results. So this supposed marketing company has a website that you cannot search for on Google. This really does not do anything to convince me that this is anything other than a fake shell company. Jake Hoffman has also explained that he does not give out the address or details of his operations because of political persecution from what he calls the insane, murderous left. I'm sorry, Jake Hoffman, but that explanation is not good enough. You are a state senator, and you have to prove you are not taking bribes. You cannot claim security reasons as a shield to stop anyone from knowing the details of your suspicious business. This would be like if Donald Trump decided not to let anyone know the addresses for his hotels. You could not know anything about his golf courses for security reasons. That would be ridiculous. You chose to live a public life. You do not get to keep your business a giant secret. There's nothing wrong with a state senator running his own company, but it has to be an actual business and not a way for him to launder money. Let's assume that Jake Hoffman is completely innocent. This is still a stupid thing for him to do. It is stupid. Just for appearance's sake, it looks really shady. Imagine if Joe Biden had a UPS store mailbox where people would walk in and drop off millions of dollars. Oh yeah, Joe Biden did have multiple shell companies that didn't seem to do anything, and we had hearings about it for 2 years. How come all these Republicans got upset over Joe Biden, but no one wants to talk about what Jake Hoffman is doing? So let's take a closer look at 110 LLC. You can go to transparencyusa.org, which shows election-related expenditures in the U.S. and state elections. 110 LLC received over $4 million from Arizona election campaigns and a small amount related to Wisconsin campaigns. Now, this is just a portion of the revenue that was reported as part of state elections. We know the actual revenue numbers for 110 LLC are much higher because this doesn't even include all the money paid to them by Turning Point. Another person I talked about in my videos is someone named Tyler Boyer. Just as a reminder, Turning Point is made up of 4 main shell companies, and Tyler Boyer is the COO of Turning Point Action and America's Turning Point. Tyler Boyer is important because the Turning Point shell companies that Tyler Boyer managed just happen to be the same shell companies paying 110 LLC. Let me show you how Tyler Boyer describes the first time that he met Charlie Kirk.
And I walked away from that and going, I can hitch my wagon to this guy. I can hitch my wagon to Charlie Kirk. He was like that spread. We went heavyweight together.
He says that he was going to hitch his wagon to Charlie Kirk. He said that he was Charlie Kirk's best friend. We're going to see how good a friend he was. And does anyone know what this hand signal is? This is very strange. Then there is this clip where he talks about Candace Owens.
What is a story that you have about Charlie and Candace that Candace didn't share?
Oh, well, there's a lot. I put one out. That was right away. I was there with them. It was like, the 3 amigos. I was with Charlie and Candace when we went to TMZ that day with Candace and Kanye. And, Kanye was immediately obsessed with Candace.
Tyler Boyer describes himself, Charlie Kirk, and Candace Owens as the 3 amigos. And for proof of this, he explains that he was there the day that Candace met Kanye West. I find this extremely strange because this is how Candace Owens describes Tyler Boyer.
But it didn't make sense to me that Tyler Boyer lied about it. And I don't trust Tyler Boyer. And that is never going to change. Similarly with Rob McCoy, he makes my skin crawl. I can't explain it. I look at him and he's a bad person and nobody can make me feel one way or the other about that.
Candace says that she does not trust Tyler Boyer and compares him to Rob McCoy, who she says makes my skin crawl. So which one is it? Were they the three amigos? Or is Candace correct in saying that you cannot trust Tyler Boyer? Which one is it? I want to go back in time to 2017. A company was created called We the People USA, Inc. This was a nonprofit corporation formed in Arizona. This company is important because when you understand what people have done in the past, it becomes a template for what they're likely to do in the future. This company was created with 5 directors: Mike Miller, Doug DeGroot, Jake Hoffman, Dwayne Farnsworth, and Tyler Boyer. Mike Miller and Doug DeGroot are both current board members of Turning Point USA. That is why they are on there. I've already explained who Jake Hoffman and Tyler Boyer are. I find Dwayne Farnsworth very strange. He is a bankruptcy attorney in Mesa, Arizona. Why is this random bankruptcy attorney a director in this company with Jake Hoffman and Tyler Boyer? It seems unusual. Well, you might have noticed that he has the same last name as the IT guy, Terrell Farnsworth, who was present at Charlie Kirk's murder. Now, I don't know if these two people are related. Maybe you internet sleuths at home can figure that out. But a lot of people have questions about the IT guy, Terrell Farnsworth. Like, why did he move the chair at the crime scene to remove the SD cards with the footage of the murder? Why did he film a selfie video of himself directly after the shooting?
He's dead. God help him.
I find this extremely strange. Who witnesses a shooting and immediately thinks to themselves, I want to film a selfie video of myself? I think that's odd. So a lot of people have been questioning why this IT guy acted so strangely. Well, I can give you one possibility. If his relative was involved in shady business dealings on the side with Tyler Boyer, that could explain it. But again, I don't know if they're related or not. The main point is to show that Tyler Boyer and Jake Hoffman have a history of doing these side businesses together. We have the paperwork. This company was formed in 2017 and then it was dissolved in 2021. That is strange because 110 LLC was created in 2021. Here is the formation paperwork signed by Jake Hoffman. I do not know why he lied about this in his post on X.com and said it was a decade-old company. This was formed 4 years ago. It was formed at this address in Delaware next to several other buildings Candace Owens has identified in her podcast. Now, that's probably unrelated, but it is still a pretty strange coincidence. Just to be clear, the Delaware address Jake Hoffman is using is for InCorp Services, which is listed on Delaware's website as a registered agent who can set up one of these shell companies. My question is, why does all this shady stuff happen in Delaware? So at the same time the old company was being shut down in Arizona, this new company was being formed in the state of Delaware. Because it was formed in Delaware, all the partner information is kept secret. We cannot see who is involved. But I don't think it is a stretch to say that it is my opinion that Tyler Boyer was likely involved in the creation of 110 LLC. If Tyler Boyer is a partner, that means that he would receive a share of the profits of every dollar that flows through that UPS store mailbox. Now, I don't have any evidence of this, but there are some interesting facts that you should know. I mentioned in my previous video that Tyler Boyer lives in a massive mansion. I'm not going to show it on the video, but you can go look for it yourself. His address is listed on the IRS 990 forms. His house is luxurious. There are multiple buildings, a pool, a private basketball court. Well, I have the paperwork from when he bought his house. And this is pretty shocking. It was also purchased in 2021, 4 months after 110 LLC was created. The property was worth $1.95 million, and he put a down payment of $650,000. Let me explain how wild this is. Here is court paperwork from 2017 of a lawsuit where Tyler Boyer was involved. He had been fighting this lawsuit since 2010 over some unpaid fees from a condo development. The court order says, the exact condition of the judgment is $11,401.32 as of June 8, 2017. So Tyler Boyer owes this money, and he was taken to court. It was reported in the news that his wages were garnished because of this debt. So as of 2017, Tyler Boyer was struggling financially. This is not the type of thing you see from someone who has a lot of money. This begs the obvious question. How in the world did he get $650,000 in cash to use as a down payment on his house? Do any of you find this suspicious? That someone in 2017 can be broke and in 4 years have $650,000 in cash?
Hello, my name is Carrie Parker. I'm 54 years
Tyler Boyer needs to answer the simple question, where did he get the $650,000? The first major customer of 110 LLC was Kari Lake. Kari Lake at this time was running for governor of Arizona. Kari Lake had a super PAC called Put Arizona First. Right before the primary, Put Arizona First received a $2.3 million donation. Put Arizona First then turned around and gave the $2.3 million to 110 LLC. To this day, we still do not know who was behind this $2.3 million donation. It came from a company called SPH Medical LLC. Now, if you are doing research, there's a company in California called SPH Medical that sells medical supplies. This is not the same company. SPH Medical LLC is another shell company out of Delaware. And once again, everyone involved in the company is secret. So we have no idea where the money came from. I find this outrageous. I think the American people deserve to know who gave $2.3 million to Kari Lake. Who was it? Someone knows who it was. Someone knows either at Turning Point, Kari Lake's campaign, or the Republican elite. Someone should be able to tell us who gave this money and why it all ended up going to a UPS store mailbox for 110 LLC. Now, of course, Kari Lake won the primary election. But what is interesting is that her official campaign did not hire 110 LLC to do their marketing for the general election. Kari Lake hired major legitimate marketing companies with active websites and offices and employees. She still continued to pay 110 LLC, but at a much lower level. And she ended up losing the general election. This was the start of a lot of different campaigns that 110 LLC received money from in Arizona politics. For instance, one customer was David Farnsworth. Here's a poster from Turning Point Action for David Farnsworth. Why are all these people with the last name Farnsworth doing business with Tyler Boyer? So we have all these candidates paying money into this UPS store mailbox to send to 110 LLC, and then Turning Point is also supporting their election campaigns. It is almost like they are all working together. Here's the problem. If any Turning Point employees are also receiving money from 110 LLC, that would be kickbacks. That would be Turning Point employees getting rich off these election campaigns. Again, I don't have any direct evidence of this, but we could know for sure with a simple question. Are any Turning Point employees receiving money from 110 LLC? I'm going through all of this history so that you understand that this was the financial infrastructure that was already in place when Charlie Kirk was murdered. So the old company was closed, this new company was formed in Delaware, suddenly Tyler Boyer has $650,000 in cash, and 110 LLC receives $2.3 million from Kari Lake's super PAC. The obvious question is, did any of that $2.3 million somehow make it into Tyler Boyer's pocket? But there is another shell company that we have not even talked about yet, Turning Point PAC. This is a political action committee, and we know from Tyler Boyer's Instagram profile that he is also involved in this company. We can see how Turning Point PAC spends money on federal campaigns by looking on opensecrets.org. And surprise, surprise, we can see that the majority of the expenditures for Turning Point PAC are being sent to the UPS store mailbox for 110 LLC. They paid $1.1 million in the 21-22 election cycle and $2.1 million in the 23-24 election cycle. So if you've been keeping track, the amount of money Turning Point has sent to 110 LLC has now increased from $1.5 million to $4.7 million. How is this Arizona state senator with no office helping out on all of these federal campaigns? Am I the only person who finds it crazy that there are millions of dollars flowing through this UPS store mailbox? The person who could answer these questions very easily is Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. She could issue a subpoena for the accounting records at 110 LLC and Turning Point and give us the answers to everyone's questions. Since people have been raising these questions, she has done nothing. We have not heard a word from Chris Mays. What is she doing? Honestly, what does she do all day long?
I know I actually got some of the documents, the letter from the IRS to Erika, Kirk, and TPUSA that talks about what their situation is as regards to the IRS.
This letter has been floating around and reported on by mainstream news outlets like CBS, except the letter itself has never been shown until Paramount Tactical's podcast. In fact, I'm guessing he was not supposed to show this to his audience because it is quite shocking. It is a 2-page letter on Department of the Treasury letterhead. It says it is responding to a request from Erika Kirk. It says, 1, there is no IRS investigation currently underway on Turning Point. 2, all 4990 forms were filed by May 15th, 2025. 3, the next year's forms will be filed by May 15th, 2026. The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS. We all know this is not normal behavior. Have any of you ever received a letter from the IRS saying, just letting you know, we're not doing an investigation on you? No, of course you have not, because the IRS does not do this. And it's not coming from the IRS. The letter is signed by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. To me, this looks more like a political favor to Donald Trump's personal friends than a legitimate IRS communication. Second, the wording in this letter does not mean anything. Just because the IRS is not investigating does not mean there is no fraud going on. This does not mean that donors cannot sue Turning Point to get their money back. This does not mean that state attorney generals cannot file criminal charges against Turning Point executives. This letter does not disprove my concerns about their finances. And what is this? What is this? At the top of the page, someone has crossed out Mrs. Kirk and wrote in Erika. It looks like someone is proofreading Scott Bessent's letter. Who could that be? I have reviewed so many White House documents, and in my opinion, that handwriting looks like it was written by Donald Trump. If you compare it to other samples of his writing, he does a consistent method where he writes a name dash, name dash, name dash. The K is very much like this K. The E is written the same way as this W. This handwriting looks like it belongs to Donald Trump. This letter does not look like it came from the IRS. It looks like it came from the President of the United States. Do you understand what this means? This is the only document the Democrats need to impeach President Trump. This looks like the president's handwriting on official letterhead of him interfering in an IRS investigation of his personal friends. Let me remind you of Richard Nixon. Nixon faced impeachment charges for interfering with the FBI investigation into the Watergate scandal.
Then I hear the Watergates and admission. That's a pun on words, I believe.
The main evidence was secret tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is doing the same thing with the IRS investigation, but this time we have what looks like his handwriting on official letterhead. It looks like the White House is now part of the cover-up at Turning Point. Let me give some free accounting advice to Donald Trump. You get this one for free, Donald. Stop writing letters like this. Why isn't he distancing himself from this scandal? I highly doubt that Donald Trump was aware of what Tyler Boyer was doing behind the scenes. But now with this letter, Donald Trump looks like he's getting involved. And I'm saying this as someone who likes Donald Trump, and this letter deeply bothers me. People have a right to be upset about this. Turning Point has been raising millions of dollars from donations. Most people don't know what has been happening with the donations. I received a message from someone named Margaret. Like many other people, she donated money to Turning Point USA because she was moved by Charlie Kirk's death. She was told if she gave a donation that she would receive a hat as part of their fundraising effort. Here's the message. Thank you for your contribution to Turning Point USA with the official Turning Point email address. And it says, shipping of your hat could take up to 10 to 12 weeks. She donated on September 16th. 12 weeks would have been the second week in December. Margaret has never received a hat. Instead, she received this card with a rubber bracelet. They are sending bracelets to people instead of the hat they promised. And this is not an isolated incident. Here is a Facebook post. Made a $25 donation to TPUSA back in September that was supposed to come with a 47 hat free for making the donation. Never got hat. Tried texting them and calling them several times and have not gotten response. Did get one response from someone named Erika, who said she had no record of the transaction. Have sent them copies of my receipt with no response. Called and left my name and contact info on their voicemail because they never answer the phone and they don't even call you back. Loved Charlie Kirk and watched him religiously, but this has totally disappointed me. We'll call my bank and see if I can get reimbursed for the donation. And the replies are full of comments saying the same thing. All I got was a bracelet. We got a bracelet. No hat as promised. Got a cheap rubber band bracelet and no hat. That's a big way to turn people away. Just make false promises. Same thing happened to my husband. No hat. Gave a donation back in September. And it goes on and on and on. People need to realize what Turning Point has been doing to get donations since Charlie Kirk's death. They are lying to people to get their money and then sending them rubber bracelets. What people are now realizing from Turning Point's financial information is that they are involved in a whole lot more. Let us look again at the 4 nonprofit companies. We have Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, Turning Point Endowment, and America's Turning Point. 3 of these companies are 501c3 organizations. Turning Point Action is a 501c4. The difference is that a 501c3 is not allowed to participate in political activity. A 501c4 can participate in no more than 50% political activity. And then there is also Turning Point PAC, which is 100% political activity. Now, I have seen arguments from people claiming that this is normal. They say it is normal for nonprofits to have multiple different companies. Not like this, it's not. Do not let people gaslight you about what's going on here. Let me explain what is unusual. You would normally create different shell companies for different types of activities. For instance, Turning Point Endowment is for their investments. That's clearly a different type of activity. It gets its own company. That makes sense. Turning Point Action is a 501c4. That's a different type of activity, so it gets its own company. What is this? Why is America's Turning Point separate? The company descriptions on the 990 form are very similar. It's basically education for young people. So why are these 2 different companies? The only major difference that I see is that Charlie Kirk managed Turning Point USA and Tyler Boyer managed America's Turning Point. So in a way, America's Turning Point existed to give Charlie Kirk plausible deniability. It gave Tyler Boyer his own 501c3 where he could do whatever he wanted, and Charlie Kirk would not necessarily know about it. This is explained in the fine print of the 990 form for Turning Point USA, which says, Turning Point USA's other educational programs include campus leadership programs, which are hosted by Turning Point USA's related entity, America's Turning Point, with grants totaling $8.6 million. So what is Tyler Boyer doing with these students? It sounds like this leadership program is a pipeline for these students to go work for Tyler Boyer. I wonder what these students are doing that costs $8.6 million. We're going to get into that in a minute. The other obvious question for most people is, how does Turning Point get involved in so much political activity? The only companies that are allowed to do political activity are up to 50% of Turning Point Action and Turning Point PAC. What happens in the real world is that a lot of 501c3s will perform what they call get out the vote efforts, or voter education. This is defined in Treasury Regulation 1.527-6B5. Get out the vote campaigns must not be specifically identified by the organization with any candidate or political party. As long as these are nonpartisan activities, they are considered not political, and that is the loophole that is allowed for a 501c3. This would include things like signing people up for new voter registration, but you cannot be pushing for Republican or Democrat. It has to be completely nonpartisan. Here's the problem. Turning Point USA is a 501c3. They are supposed to be non-political. But then we see Erika Kirk endorsing J.D. Vance for president.
We're going to ensure that President Trump has Congress for all 4 years. We are going to get my husband's friend, J.D. Vance, elected for 48 in the most resounding way possible. The most resounding way possible.
This is at America Fest, Turning Point USA's largest event, with the CEO in a flashy pantsuit giving a speech endorsing a political candidate. This is strictly forbidden under the law for a 501c3. You cannot endorse political candidates. That is political activity. In my opinion, what Erika Kirk just did was illegal. This is effectively using their tax-exempt donations to create a campaign commercial for J.D. Vance. And before you say, well, maybe it was paid for by one of the other companies that allow political activity. No, no, no. It says Turning Point USA behind her head during the speech. The tickets for the event were sent out from Turning Point USA. The fact page for the event is hosted at tpusa.com. And at the bottom of the webpage, it explicitly says Turning Point USA is a 501c3. It looks to me like the executives at Turning Point are playing pretty fast and loose with the laws concerning 501c3s. Remember why this is important. A 501c3 is tax exempt, which is a tax subsidy. You are paying more in taxes so that they do not have to. So is it fair that Democrats are paying taxes that fund a campaign commercial for J.D. Vance? This is so unjust, which is why there are so many laws against what Erika Kirk just did. If she wants to endorse a candidate, that's fine, but she needs to pay for it out of Turning Point PAC. I'm going to give you the exact wording from IRS Revenue Rule 2007-41. A 501c3 does not participate in or intervene in, including the publishing or distributing of statements, any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office. That seems pretty clear that Erika Kirk's statement was illegal. So the only nonprofit that is supposed to do political activity is the 501c4 Turning Point Action. There is a special section on their 990 form where they are supposed to list out the political activity they are engaged in, Schedule C. Now, everyone should go check out Schedule C for Turning Point Action because it is quite shocking. For FY24, on line 2, they listed that they spent $637,500 on political campaign activity expenditures. Now, just let that sink in for a moment. Out of Turning Point Action's $21 million budget, they only spent 3% on political activity. Now, just from what you know about what Turning Point Action does that seem right to you? Now, they actually provide a description of what the $637,500 was spent on. They claim it was specifically political campaign activities include event expense. So they spent this money on some kind of event. I'm guessing it was a campaign rally for Donald Trump. And they are claiming that this is the only thing that Turning Point Action does that qualifies as political activity. All of the rest of the millions of dollars that they have spent was not for political activity. I have a really hard time believing that. We're going to take a closer look. If Turning Point Action spent more than 3% of their budget on political activity, that means they lied to the IRS and they lied to their donors, and that is fraud. This would be an omission of potentially taxable income. So what I want to do is an audit. We're going to do an audit right here, right now, and you people on the internet can help me do it. We're going to look at what Turning Point Action actually does in real life, and then we are going to compare that to what they are reporting in their financials. If it looks like their political activity exceeds 3%, that means that they are lying. So to start out with, on their website, tpaction.com, there's an entire page dedicated to ballot harvesting. It says, Turning Point Action's Chase the Vote Initiative. They say, TP Action chased ballots in Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Nevada. They describe this as, the radical left was beating us in the ballot game. In 2024, Turning Point Action launched the first and most robust conservative ballot operation. So they are specifically saying on the website that this is partisan. It should not qualify as a nonpartisan get out the vote effort. It is extremely partisan. So why are the expenses for this not listed on the 990 form? This Chase the Vote initiative sounds like ballot harvesting. People call this different names. Ballot harvesting, ballot chasing, door knocking, whatever you call it. It involves going to someone's door and getting their ballot. Ballot harvesting is not illegal as long as they follow the rules. Every state has different election laws. For instance, in Arizona, ballot harvesting is only allowed for immediate family members and caregivers. For the sake of this video, we are going to assume that Turning Point is doing ballot harvesting correctly. I'm just going to assume that they hired all of these people to harvest ballots only for their immediate family members. I know that is a massive assumption, but we're going to start there. My problem is not the ballot harvesting. The problem is how are they paying for the ballot harvesting? Are they paying for it out of companies that are not supposed to be doing political activity and then not reporting it to the IRS? Here's a post by Tyler Boyer. Another day, another group of dozens of full-time ballot chasers being trained into the field. I wonder how they are paying for all of this. Here's another post by Ashley on X.com. Ballot chasing in Arizona with TP Action. Make America Great Again, hashtag Trump 2024. In the photograph, they are wearing red MAGA hats. Now, in my opinion, if you are wearing a red MAGA hat and putting in your social media post hashtag Trump 2024, this is clearly political activity. Her profile page says she's a college deputy director at Turning Point USA, which is not supposed to do any political activity. So is this senior manager being paid, and where is that money coming from? Because it does not look like it was reported as political activity on the 990 form. Here's a screenshot from an interview with Tyler Boyer. This looks like he is sitting at his desk at home. You can see behind his head a poster that reads, "Knock doors, win elections." It looks like it is talking about the Chase the Vote initiative. It's on the wall right behind his desk. For something so important that Tyler Boyer keeps it right behind his desk, Does it make sense to you that political activity only makes up 3% of the budget of Turning Point Action? Here's a post from Matthew Martinez that says, "From chasing every vote to curing every ballot. Tonight, TP Action called thousands of voters to help them cure their rejected ballots. We are laser focused on chasing and curing every vote until polls close here in Wisconsin." On his profile, he lists Turning Point Action. I don't know if he works for them, but it certainly looks like he's getting paid. This is a post by Jeanette Garcia. Some people stack paper, TP Action stacks paper. And she's holding a pile of request forms for early voting. Her profile says she's the CTV Deputy Director for Turning Point Action. How much is she getting paid? She also posted this, "Meeting today with TP Action. Chase the vote senior managers and getting prepared to take on 2026. And there are all these people. How much money are these people getting paid? We know they are getting paid because we have a job posting. Now hiring Chase the Vote managers in New Hampshire. Visit tpaction.com/careers. They are hiring vote managers and paying them. Here's another advertisement. If you live in South Phoenix, Levine, or downtown Phoenix, Turning Point is hiring door knockers. Ballot chasing representative, positions available now. So it's not just the managers they're paying, they are paying the people knocking on the doors. By the way, the person who posted this is Tatiana Pena, who is one of the candidates who paid money to the UPS store mailbox for 110 LLC.
Catholics, if you're watching, take a listen. I got an email from a woman, a Catholic woman, back in October, and the email did not sit right with me spiritually. There's a lot going on, though. I was obviously in survival mode mentally. I flagged the email. I filed it away in this inbox that I need to address this later. It's important. And I then decided to revisit it and to respond to the woman and to process what it was that had initially disturbed me. Now I'm going to read you this email, and I am going to protect information of people today. I'm not going to be giving out any names because it doesn't actually change the story any. This person wrote, "Dear Candace, firstly, thank you and may God bless you and protect you for everything that you do. I pray for you every day and I thank God for you bringing the light of truth and Christ to this world. I attended the memorial and I ended up sitting next to Father Blank. He was actually the priest that flew with Erika to Utah. He was with her when they called her that he did not make it. He prayed over him. She actually asked him to pray the rosary there at the hospital, and he said the homily at the private funeral the Friday before the memorial. Now, in hindsight, it is strange to me that he was just put in the crowd at the memorial, but then again, he may have wanted that. I was at the memorial having zero personal or prior involvement or engagement with Turning Point USA or anyone from there, and I ended up sitting next to Father Blank and then with Erika at Mass the next day. I truly believe it is complete divine intervention. I prayed at the time and each day after exactly this. God, I see and feel you are leading me. I know there is a purpose. I don't know what it is or where you are taking me, but I'm following with complete surrender and faith to your holy will. I'll try to best email this with the relevant details, and I think that it may help. I was watching your podcast as I'm finishing up work, and I had to pause it when you played Alex Clark's interview because it honestly made my stomach hurt how untruthful what they were saying was. And I felt strong conviction to write you. I've never emailed a person I don't know in my life, but I'm following this conviction. I spent a good 8 hours sitting with Father Blank. I'm shy generally and was sitting with empty seats around me in the third row from the stage. So when I saw the priest walking by and looking like he didn't know where he was going, I said, "Hi, Father, I'm also Catholic. If you need a seat, this one's empty." Whether he wanted to or not, he sat down. He seemed like a holy priest, soft-spoken, but so sincere and genuine. He prayed in silence throughout and would smile and say, "Charlie wouldn't believe this," looking around the stadium. It was like he was going through a roller coaster of emotions right there. He shared stories of Charlie attending Mass and him spending a lot of time with Erika and Charlie. As Erika was talking on stage, Father held his hands towards her and was praying over her for protection and strength, tears going down his face from his stories and messages from Charlie that he showed me. It seemed like he was probably the closest person in that room to Charlie and to Erika, yet he was sitting with me like any other guest. Like I said, in hindsight, it just feels so off still. At some point during one of our conversations, we spoke about the daily Mass at his parish because I wanted to go on Monday before I flew back to Chicago. He said, yes, at 8:30 a.m. there would be Mass. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but then I saw a text from him at 6:30 a.m. saying, "Hope to see you at Mass." I knew it was my sign to just make it work and go. There were about 6 people at the 8:30 a.m. Mass that Monday, the large church of blank. I sat in the first row and I felt God's presence so powerfully the entire Mass that I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. I didn't cry at the memorial, but I wept quietly the entire Mass. Afterward, I stayed to pray a while longer. Lights were starting to turn off and I looked back and I noticed a tall bodyguard in the back, along with Erika and a middle-aged woman that was sitting by her. At that moment, I went back to prayer and I said, "God, if you'd like for her and I to connect or speak, please bring us together. If not, I will pray for her and I'll head out." I did not want to disrupt her, but also I had an intense knowledge of how much God's hand was present throughout the last 2 days. A minute or two later, as I was still in prayer, I had a tap on my shoulder by a woman. I believed it was an assistant. I can't remember what it is she does. She said, "Would you like to join Erika?" Candace, at that moment, I thought, okay, God, I hear you. I've never had so much peace while blindly surrendering to God's will. Maybe I have, but I haven't ever seen it so clearly in action. I hugged Erika. I sat next to her in the last pew, and I just had the most beautiful conversation. She mentioned that Charlie went to Mass with her there, and that Father Don would open the church up for him there often when Charlie just wanted to pray and reflect without being disrupted, and that he was with her the entire time from Arizona to Utah in the hospital, etc. I have so much I could share on all of the little miracles, but I just want to say that today I felt compelled to send this to you. And so I'm listening to my conviction and sending this, and I am hoping that the Holy Spirit and both of our guardian angels will direct this message as it is intended per God's will. I have to say, I felt more realness from Erika in my exchange with her in that church than from the memorial. I saw her at Mass again on Tuesday. I ended up staying an extra day because I had relics from St. Paul II that my mom wanted to give Erika flown there. I coordinated someone to fly it to me, and then I gave it to her. Okay. I am going to end it there. Now, why do you think that that email disturbed me and made me file it? Just check in the chat here. What is not right with that email? And I'll tell you, it wasn't the person who wrote it that disturbed me. I blanked out over a name because I'm going to tell you now that the person who tapped on her shoulder, who she thought was an assistant, was Stacey Sheridan.
Do you really want to make your holiday special? Tanzania has got so much to offer. From the
That was what disturbed me about the email and made me file it right away, because I knew exactly what happened and I did not have the heart to tell her what had happened, because I know who Stacey Sheridan is. I know what I told Charlie about Stacey Sheridan. I've seen her work. I've been at events with her. I knew that Stacey would have only done that if the girl who was writing me this email had a boatload of money. Didn't even need to look up this person or the email. I knew that they had that girl clocked before she walked into the memorial. I don't think actually it was God that sat her where she was sat, 3 rows in. She was amazed by all of this. Oh, I don't even know anybody here. Here I am. I don't even know Charlie. I don't know anybody at Turning Point USA. Here I am sitting at the front. And oh my gosh, this moment. And you know, Erika won't even speak to this app Turning Point USA, but Stacey Sheridan, would you like access to the grieving widow? I knew, and I filed it. I knew something was wrong. And then when I went to go revisit all these things that I had filed and I saw this, I went, oh my gosh, this makes me so sick. And I knew that I had to reach out to this person and I had to say it. Hey, don't know anything about you, but I'm going to assume you have a lot of money, and it breaks my heart to tell you this, but you were targeted. They would have known everything about you. That's how they work. Before everyone is seated, Stacey Sheridan's job literally is to know everything about that person, their net worth. She'll know your dad's net worth, your mom's net worth. She would tell Charlie, she whispered in Charlie's ear, that person runs so and so, blah, 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 blah. And then Charlie will go have the conversation. That was the whole reason they brought her on. That's what Stacey's brilliant at. Smelling money, truly. And so I had a conversation. And I said, and actually, when we finally broke this conversation, she had already arrived at that conclusion. So that was back in October. She sent the email. And so my message to her, she said, yeah, I kind of figured this all out now. And I said, you got a lot of money? Yeah, got a lot of money. How much money we talking? Dad sold a huge business. She runs a massive business. They are wealthy, extraordinarily wealthy. And I said, now let's go through how this all really happened, because you were targeted, and I'd like to know how you ended up at the memorial. And so she tells me a story of how that all happened, and I'm going to walk you through it because I think it is one of the more disgusting and disturbing things that I've heard throughout the story. Maybe I'm taking it more personally because I am Catholic, and I'm happy to be biased in that way, but I think you will tend to agree with me here. So just so there's no confusion, she was obviously telling the truth. She even supplied evidence in the form of a text message that the priest that she was sitting next to had shared with her. This is Charlie's text message. He's on a group chat with Erika and the priest. And this is the morning of September 9th. Now, Erika has been telling the truth when she says that Charlie would send messages and have biblical verses. I have tons with Charlie. They were typically relevant to whatever we were going through, a verse of encouragement, to keep going, to keep fighting. And here's the message that he chose to share. Again, group chat between him and Erika, September 9th. It is 1 Corinthians, Paul's letter to the Corinthians, 16:9. And it reads, for a wide door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. Just find that message in general to be interesting. because it is him acknowledging that his opportunities have bred him enemies. Who are the adversaries? I find that to be interesting. It is 1 Corinthians, Paul's letter to the Corinthians 16:9, and it reads, "For a wide door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many adversaries."
I see open doors. You showing me Erika Kirk. I hear the Mossad.
That message was shared. Anyway, she was amazed by this, and she went, and then you know what happens next? She gets a little tap from Stacey Sheridan, who should burst into flames when she walks into a church, if we're being honest. Okay, this woman, but think about that. What moved Stacey Sheridan to tap on this person's shoulder? Erika told her to do that. Erika gave her permission to do that. Why would she randomly go and say, tap, tap, would you like to sit with the grieving widow? That would be the most inappropriate thing ever. Ever. If you're sitting with your friend and your friend is grieving their husband, you would not be like, let me go up to a rando that I don't know and see if they just want to chill with her. You would want her to have privacy. Okay, there's a conversation that took place. Do not play us for dummies. Don't do it. There was a conversation that took place between Erika and Stacey Sheridan, conversations that I have seen before between Charlie and Stacey Sheridan about who that woman is. That woman was targeted in that church. Okay, I don't care. Cut it. Do whatever you want to say. Put it on Instagram. Oh my God, clutch your pearls. I can't believe. Yes, you better believe it. This woman was targeted in a church after mass. It makes me sick. It really does. So anyways, she thinks it's all God. But let me tell you something. Where Stacey Sheridan is, we're going in the other direction. Okay, we're going in the other direction. And then she sits and Erika opens up to her. They're having this beautiful conversation. And she then arranges, she was so amazed by this, that she organizes to get a relic from St. Michael, the same cave that sits behind me. And here's where I actually see God working, that this woman sent me this email, and that of 50,000 emails coming in. I saw this email, I saved this email, and she happened to have, this is actually, I'm just thinking about this live. I got this relic. When was I in Wyoming? I got it in Wyoming from the priest in Wyoming. You're going to have to tell me. I feel like it was the first weeks of October, and this is when the woman sent me the email. So that's just something that, I'm sorry, I just had like a spiritual vibe about that also is the relic that she had and she gave to Erika. So St. Michael's doing a little bit of protection here, and I think that there is a reason that she had to go through this.
You're showing me Candace Owens and you're saying her life is in danger. And Lord, I just cover her in your blood and your prayers and in worship unto you, Lord Jesus. Okay, now you're telling me what surrounds her, and I just seen like the host of heaven. Like a legion of hosts. I even see Archangel Michael fighting for her. Okay, and you said it's no faint thing? And he fights for her for the truth to come out. He said more. Okay, he said more will be given about this matter. And I even see Archangel Gabriel as a messenger telling her truths. Whoa.
Even sometimes when you're going through things like being scammed, there's a reason for that. And so this information came to me. She organizes St. Michael's relic, and she gets this to Erika. The next day at Mass, she doesn't get to speak to Erika because this time another top fundraiser at Turning Point USA met her there and said, hey, Erika wanted me to follow up with you. And she, again, was so amazed by God working that she decided to even message the priest afterward and thank him that she was able to get this relic to Erika. And I just want to read you this because, again, her and I might have different perspectives here, but she says, I will always cherish my time with you both so much. I'm in absolute awe of how God worked through me to what I believe was to give Erika those relics. The experience felt like me directly witnessing God working through each of us. I just wanted to send a quick note to share. Hope to see you soon, Father. God bless. And in response, the Father said, God bless. Thank you for sharing your wonderful words. God's fingerprints are all over what is happening. There is no doubt that your presence to Erika was a God moment for both of you. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. There's this, we have to protect Erika. This is God. This is God. What happens thereafter, I like even less. The intermediary, the person that delivered the relic, another top fundraiser for Turning Point USA, offered that he was going to be in the Chicago area. That's where she lives, in Illinois. And he says, hey, I'm going to be there already. Obviously, Charlie's from Chicago. I'm sure that was true. But I'd love to pop in and see you. And, we're all committed in this faith journey together. And that happens. And he meets her and he meets her father. And while he meets her, he then invites her to the big gala, the one at Mar-a-Lago, where they're going to raise like $42 million. And here's that message. He says, thank you for organizing dinner. It was great to spend time on the road with great Catholics. I had a wonderful time. And thank you for all the prayers, especially for Erika. Can I call you tomorrow regarding the gala? We would love to have you guys involved, but we can talk further. Erika repeated how much she loved meeting you. Again, why does this feel to me like manipulation? Like a bit of Erika really needed you. You were sent from God to Erika with Stacey Sheridan in the middle of it. Okay. Well, here's what happens next. She gets a little nudge when she does go down to Mar-a-Lago. She knows nothing about Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach, and I find this part to be quite funny. Dark humor in this, because I know everything about Mar-a-Lago, and it's like little Israel. It really is, and it's where a lot of the meetings take place. The Zionist donors, PragerU doing a gala down there makes perfect sense. They do that, and they were all over this. Suddenly, she's there, and she's meeting a different Turning Point USA team. Like, she meets them at this church. It's Catholic. But she notices there's no Catholic discussion or presence. Rather, you got Dr. Frank Turek, and apparently, according to her, he's on stage and he's hitting at the Judeo. They're now editing their message because they're in a room with Jews, and suddenly, we don't want to talk about the Catholicism. We don't want to talk about faith. We don't want to talk about relics. We don't want to talk about St. Michael. No, wrong crowd for this. Shabbat Shalom. Daddy's home. And so she says to the person she's like, what, why aren't you guys doing anything with the Catholic stuff? I felt, this was such a strong Catholic bond. And he kind of kicks the can down the road and says, oh, we're planning on doing stuff in the future. Like, not here. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom at Mar-a-Lago. And she's just like, no, something that this is not my thing. Over the, everyone's dressed to the nines, and she's like, I don't have an issue with Israel, but this feels like something else than what I experienced. And then what happens is they follow up with her, and they keep following up with her because they're looking to have a check, pretty much. We'd love to have a call, leave another message for your dad. I look forward to getting y'all involved. I hope all is well. I want to set up time to visit and discuss further support. Are you available the 2nd or 3rd week of February? Hi, I want to touch base and check in. Let me know if we could schedule a call. And she kind of just leaves him unread because she realizes, yeah, I think I was actually targeted. And she was targeted. But nothing, God lets everything happen. What I will say is that God will not be mocked. God will not be mocked. I'm a Latter-day Saint on a Monday. I'm a Catholic on a Tuesday. I'm Shabbat Shaloming on a Wednesday. God will not be mocked. I see this for what this is. And there are no surprises anymore for me. A Turning Point faith, the infiltration, it's very clear. And there is something so especially sinister about hijacking people's faith and their emotion. And when she expressed that I normally, I'm a businesswoman, I have my guard up, but when it comes to faith and I'm thinking that this is all happening, I look back and I go, man, I didn't even process this, because you shouldn't have had to process that. No one should have had to have been thinking this way, that people were using our trauma and our emotions and our spirituality to manipulate us.
So look at this, guys. Back when the Lord gave us these words, it sounded absolutely crazy. But now, more and more information is coming out, and exposure is coming out, and leaks is coming out. And it's not so crazy. Now, people are seeing Turning Point USA for what it is. Do you see how knowledge increases and then becomes general knowledge? But when the Lord gives us these words, it sounds like crazy. What are you talking about? until it comes to pass, and then it becomes general knowledge, and it's not so shocking anymore after it gets revealed and multiple people come out exposing it. All glory to God. All glory to God. But that is why we have to gain knowledge. That is why we have to spend time with the Lord in the secret place, so we can make sure we are on the correct timeline, and we could come up higher and see reality for what it really is. All praise, all glory be to the Lord Jesus Christ. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section. I will speak to you guys soon. Hey guys, this video is brought to you by Glory Changers. Go and check out the Glory Changer store where you can get these bracelets that say Jesus, Yeshua, Adonai. There's many different bracelets for men and women. I do pray, decree, and declare, and release the anointing over each bracelet that I make. Each bracelet is made with love, and whatever the Lord has me decree and declare onto it for the person who will receive it, because he knows all things. Glory Changers, from glory to glory. Come and check out the Glory Changer store.